Hello and welcome to the Times of India. You're watching Global Pulse with me, Neha Khanna. Our big focus on the show tonight. Is the sordid Jeffrey Epstein saga blowing up in Trump's face? And has the US president just suffered his worst and most spectacular political defeat? In a sensational development that could spell big trouble for the US president, lawmakers on Capitol Hill have taken the significant step of ordering the Department of Justice to publicly release all of its investigative files into the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This comes after months of nasty infighting within the Republican Party. US Congress is now sending the bill, which remarkably won support from all Republicans except one across both the House and the Senate, to Trump's desk. Despite months of calling the issue a Democratic hoax, Trump has said he will sign the bill, taking many by surprise. The speed with which the bill moved through both chambers of Congress on Tuesday marked a stark reversal from recent months when Trump and GOP leaders worked furiously to quash it. But Trump ultimately decided to allow the GOP to back the measure as pressure mounted within his party. It's a remarkable turnaround for Trump and Republican leaders in Washington, who had unsuccessfully tried to halt the measure led by a party agitator, Representative Thomas Massie, and strongly backed by Democrats. But with the House vote looming, Trump and his team feared that an embarrassing defeat was coming, and therefore the president finally relented, effectively allowing GOP lawmakers to vote for the measure. There are multiple indications, including the recently released trove of emails written by Jeffrey Epstein, that Trump figures in the Epstein files. These are essentially all the documents pertaining to the investigation into the late convicted sex offender who ran a sex trafficking ring involving scores of young underage girls and some very powerful men from the United States and other parts of the world. The allegation is that these powerful men raped and sexually abused scores of children on Epstein's Island. As for the bill clearing both chambers of Congress, it is clear that it's a stupendous defeat for the most powerful man in the world. Analysts say this is easily the worst setback for Donald Trump from his own party on Capitol Hill during two turbulent presidencies, after every step he took to stall and deflect the Epstein files issue. Now, Trump and his Attorney General Pam Bondi, who both triggered the political uproar by pledging to open the Epstein files only to later refuse to do so, are back where they started, only in a much more vulnerable political position. And this is a moment when Trump's presidency appears damaged. His popularity is falling, and a rash of other issues are bogging down his White House. Speculation is growing about whether a president, who many were recently warning was a dictator, is close to becoming a lame duck. The overwhelming House and Senate moves to release the Epstein files are a stunning triumph for Epstein's victims. A president who believes he enjoys unfettered powers and who critics say disdains democracy has been defeated by grassroots political campaigning in combination with a handful of courageous lawmakers from both parties. And remember, this is a president who has survived two impeachment trials with support from his party senators. But has the Epstein saga changed all that? Unless Trump and Pam Bondi release the Epstein files immediately, echoes of the question that is already being asked will become even louder. Just what is Trump hiding? If the Department of Justice employs a strategy of releasing countless pages of Epstein files but with details, names and other information blacked out to avoid incriminating people, that would only prolong the controversy. Trump continues to label the issue a Democratic hoax, but multiple mentions of the president in emails sent by Epstein recently released by Congress raise the possibility that he is also mentioned in the documents held by the Department of Justice.
Well, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did.
Everybody is now behind it. President Trump says, you know what? Let's just release it. Now
Well,
that
you
has
can release it on
well, number one, there's 65,000 pages that have been released. How many pages you think are left? I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot.
Critics say Trump has turned the DOJ into an arm of his political movement. Therefore, it would not be surprising to see partial disclosures that do not satisfy the critics. But such is the intrigue around the saga that there is no guarantee people would believe that he has indeed released everything. Kentucky Republican Representative Thomas Massie, who broke with Trump to force through the bill demanding the release of the Epstein files, has already issued a stark warning that he would act if there is an attempt to thwart disclosure of the Epstein evidence. As a last resort, he says, he might read aloud the names of alleged associates of the sex trafficker in the House of Representatives.
And so I am thinking about so many women as I am here today. And most of all, I am thinking,
It's all right.
about Virginia Roberts Giuffre. We would not be here without her. There is no doubt in my mind about that. And, I very much, I think, like many people, there were fights going on. There were definitely women that had, worked so hard for so long for justice, but I had given up on the idea that anything would happen in this case. After the sweetheart deal, I felt like everyone knew about Epstein. We would see things in tabloids about Epstein. This was not a secret, right? And when I first saw the photo of Virginia and Prince Andrew, I was at my job. I remember so clearly the moment that it popped up on my computer screen, and I just kind of was taken aback. And I just immediately knew the truth behind that photo, and I felt the bravery of this woman who was taking on the world with this story and was being met with such contempt and disrespect.
The question, therefore, is this: even as we wait to see what happens next, how much political damage has Trump already suffered on account of this issue, both within his party and personal power base, and in the country? Ever since returning to the White House, Trump has wielded massive power through dominance, or at least the perception that he is all-powerful. He never followed his party, it followed him. But the myth of total power was shattered on Sunday night when he reversed his position that the House should block the attempt to release the Epstein files. And this could encourage further challenges to Trump's authority. Could we see a new phase of the Trump presidency where the GOP does not move in lockstep on his orders? Or is the Epstein issue going to be a one-off? Analysts point out that following larger than expected victories for Democrats in governors' races in Virginia and New Jersey this month, Republicans are wary about midterm elections next year. And one-time Trump ally, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's recent attacks on Trump's globetrotting and lack of empathy over high prices suggest that frustration with him cuts deeper than Epstein alone.
It's time for the Epstein class to go, to be held accountable. It was an overwhelming vote, 427 to 1. This should pass the Senate quickly. It sends a message that Americans are finally sick and tired of a Epstein class, of rich and powerful men who thought they could get away with anything. I mean, it was sick to create a rape island where young girls were taken and trafficked.
Stunning developments on the Epstein files are not happening in isolation. It's been a terrible few weeks for Trump. His polling numbers have slumped, especially over his handling of the economy. In another potential blow to his aura of invincibility, a federal judge raised this week grave questions about the viability of the DOJ's prosecution of one of his enemies, former FBI Director James Comey. The Supreme Court recently seemed skeptical about Trump's tariff policy ahead of a pending ruling on presidential authority, and a federal court on Tuesday blocked Texas from using new congressional maps drawn at the president's behest to aid the GOP's bid to hold on to its House majority in next year's elections. While so far there is no evidence of criminal conduct by Trump in this particular case, his handling of the Epstein crisis now threatens to consume his entire presidency. How much damage could the Epstein files do to Donald Trump and his presidency? Can a president who has survived 2 impeachments, 2 assassination attempts, a criminal conviction, and dozens of legal cases also survive the Epstein saga?